The night I broke my vows, I was standing in the chapel with blood on my hands, staring at the face of a child who should not have been there, and realizing that everything I believed about God, the convent, and myself was a lie. I remember whispering, "Lord, forgive me," but my voice shook because I knew something terrible was about to be uncovered. I was a nun. I had promised silence, and what I saw that night would change my life forever. But if I spoke the truth, someone would be hurt, and if I stayed silent, someone might die. So tell me, dear child, what would you have done? The chapel was cold, even though it was summer. The stone floor felt like ice through my thin shoes. Candles flickered along the walls, making long shadows that stretched and twisted like they were alive. The bells had already rung for evening prayer, but no one else was there. That alone was wrong. We were never alone during prayer. And then I heard the sound again. A soft cry, not a grown woman's cry, not the quiet sob of a nun. It was the cry of a child. I froze. My heart began to pound so loud I was sure the saints in the paintings could hear it. Children were not allowed in the chapel at night. Ever. The convent was meant to be a place of peace and safety, but also of rules. Very strict rules. I followed the sound, my breath shallow, my hands trembling. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I reached the side altar, I saw a small figure curled on the floor behind it. A little girl. Her dress was torn, her knees were scraped, her face was pale, and her eyes were wide with fear. When she saw me, she tried to scream, but no sound came out. She just stared at me like I was another ghost in this holy place. "It's okay," I whispered, kneeling down. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." But as I reached out to her, I saw something behind her. Something that made my stomach twist and my faith crack like thin glass. A door. A hidden door in the wall behind the altar. I had lived in that convent for 12 years. I had prayed in that chapel every day. And I had never seen that door before. That was the moment everything began to fall apart. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, before the blood, before the secrets, before I stopped being Sister Margaret and became just Margaret again. I was not always a nun. I was once a young girl with braids in my hair and dirt on my knees, growing up in a small town where everyone knew everyone. My grandmother raised me after my parents died in a fire. She was kind but firm, and she believed deeply in God. Every Sunday, she took my hand and walked me to church. "Faith will protect you," she used to say. "And silence keeps you safe." I believed her. When I was 18, I felt lost. I had no parents, no money, and no clear future. That was when I met Sister Agnes. She visited our church one Sunday, wearing a simple gray habit and a gentle smile. She spoke about devotion, peace, and belonging. She spoke about a life where you would never be alone. After the service, she took my hands in hers and looked straight into my eyes. "You have a quiet soul," she said. "God loves quiet souls." Those words stayed with me. A year later, I entered the convent. The convent was old, made of thick stone walls and narrow windows. It sat far from town, surrounded by tall trees that whispered when the wind passed through them. At first, I found comfort there. The days were simple. Wake up, pray, work, pray again, eat in silence, sleep. Silence was the most important rule. Silence helps you hear God, Mother Superior would say. Mother Superior was a tall woman with sharp eyes and a voice that could cut through stone. She ruled the convent with calm authority. No one questioned her. No one dared. There were other nuns, of course. Sister Agnes was there, smiling as always. Sister Helen worked in the kitchen and hummed softly when she thought no one was listening. Sister Ruth tended the garden and rarely spoke at all. And then there was the orphanage. The convent ran a small orphanage for girls who had no families. They lived in a separate building, and we were told to keep our distance. We could help with food and clothes, but we were not to ask questions. "They are God's children," Mother Superior said, "but they are not your responsibility." That should have bothered me. But I was young, and I trusted authority. I trusted the rules. I trusted silence. For many years, nothing seemed wrong. Until the disappearances began. At first, it was just whispers. A girl moved away. A girl was adopted. A girl went to live with distant family. That was what we were told. but I noticed the numbers never added up. The beds were emptier, the shoes by the door fewer. One night, Sister Helen whispered to me in the kitchen, breaking the rule of silence. "Have you noticed?" she asked, her eyes darting toward the door. "Noticed what?" I whispered back. "The girls," she said. "They leave, but no one ever says goodbye." Before I could answer, Mother Superior entered the room. Sister Helen fell silent immediately, her face pale. Mother Superior looked at me for a long moment, then smiled. "Remember your vows, Sister Margaret," she said softly. "Silence is love." I nodded, but something cold settled in my chest. After that, I started noticing more things. Locked rooms I had never been allowed to enter. Keys that only Mother Superior carried. Late-night meetings with visitors who did not pray with us and never showed their faces in the light. And then there were the cries. At night, when the convent should have been silent, I sometimes heard crying carried through the walls. When I asked Sister Agnes about it, she placed a finger to her lips. "Do not listen," she said. "Listening leads to doubt." But doubt had already taken root. The night everything changed, I had been asked to clean the chapel alone. That was unusual, but I did not question it. Obedience was another vow. As I wiped the altar, I heard the cry. Soft, broken, afraid. And that led me to the hidden door, the child, and the truth waiting behind stone and lies. As I knelt there in the chapel, the little girl clung to my sleeve. Her hands were shaking. "They said not to tell," she whispered. "They said God wanted this." My heart shattered. Before I could ask her anything else, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside the chapel. Slow, calm, familiar. Mother Superior was coming. I stood up, my mind racing, my vows screaming in my head. The hidden door creaked open slightly, as if breathing. If Mother Superior found us there, I knew nothing would ever be the same. I had seconds to choose. Stay silent, or break my vows forever. And the door behind the altar began to open wider. The footsteps stopped right outside the chapel door. I held my breath so hard my chest hurt. The little girl pressed her face into my habit, her tears soaking the cloth. I could feel her heart racing against my leg like a trapped bird. Every rule I had ever learned was shouting at me to step away, to stay silent, to pretend I saw nothing. But my arms moved on their own. I wrapped them around her. The chapel door creaked open. Mother Superior stood there, her tall shadow stretching across the stone floor. The candlelight touched her face just enough to show her calm eyes and thin smile. She did not look surprised. That was the most frightening part. "Sister Margaret," she said softly. "You were late finishing your duties." Her eyes moved from my face, to the little girl clinging to me. The smile disappeared. For a long moment, no one spoke. The candles flickered harder, as if even they were nervous. I could hear my own breathing, loud and uneven. "This child should not be here," Mother Superior finally said. Her voice was gentle, but there was steel underneath it. I had heard that voice before, used on girls who asked too many questions. "She was crying," I said, my voice shaking. "She was hurt." Mother Superior stepped closer. Each step echoed in my bones. "She belongs where she is meant to be," she replied. "Give her to me." The little girl whimpered and tightened her grip. She shook her head against my side. "No," she whispered. "Please, don't." That one word broke something inside me. I looked down at her face, streaked with dirt and fear, and then back up at Mother Superior. "She's afraid," I said. "We should take her to the infirmary." Mother Superior's eyes hardened. "You are forgetting yourself, Sister Margaret," she said. "Obedience is not optional." Behind her, I noticed something else. Sister Agnes. She stood half hidden in the doorway, her hands folded, her face pale. Our eyes met for just a second. In that second, I saw fear there too. And guilt. Mother Superior followed my gaze and turned slightly. "Sister Agnes," she said calmly. "Please escort the child back." Sister Agnes hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "Mother," Sister Agnes began, then stopped. Her shoulders sagged. She stepped forward slowly. The little girl screamed. It was not loud, but it was raw and desperate, the kind of sound that comes from deep inside. It echoed off the stone walls and filled the chapel with pain. "Please," she cried. "Don't make me go back." Mother Superior raised her hand sharply. "Enough," she said. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. I did something I had never done before in all my years as a nun. I said no. No, I repeated, louder this time. She stays with me. The room seemed to freeze. Mother Superior stared at me as if I were a stranger. You are choosing defiance, she said quietly. Do you understand what that means? I did not answer. I only held the child tighter. Mother Superior nodded once, slowly. So be it, she said. Sister Agnes, leave us. Sister Agnes looked at me one last time. Her eyes filled with tears. Then she turned and left, closing the chapel door behind her. Now it was just the three of us. Mother Superior moved closer until I could smell her perfume, something sweet and sharp that always made my head ache. You have always been a good nun, she said. Quiet, obedient, faithful. She leaned in. That is why this disappoints me so deeply. She reached toward the child. Without thinking, I stepped back. My foot hit something behind me. The hidden door. It shifted slightly, making a soft grinding sound. Mother Superior's eyes flicked to it. So she knew. You should never have found that, she said. My stomach dropped. What is behind it? I asked, my voice barely steady. Mother Superior straightened. Salvation, she said. For the convent. For the orphanage. For all of us. Those words made no sense, but she spoke them like she believed them. Before I could ask more, she did something that shocked me even more. She told the truth. There are people, she said, who will pay very well for silence. For discretion. For children no one will miss. The little girl sobbed loudly now. They told me I was chosen, she cried. They said God wanted me to be brave. I felt sick. You hurt them, I said. We prepare them, Mother Superior corrected. We give them purpose. I shook my head. This is wrong. Mother Superior sighed, almost sadly. Wrong is letting this place fall apart, she said. Wrong is starving children, and closing our doors. This convent was dying, Sister Margaret. I did what was necessary. I understood then. The disappearances, the locked rooms, the late-night visitors. The orphanage was being used. Children were being taken, sold. My legs felt weak. And Sister Agnes? I asked. Does she know? Mother Superior's eyes flickered. She knows enough to obey, she said. As you once did. The little girl suddenly pulled away from me and pointed at the hidden door. They take us down there, she said. There are no windows. They lock us in the dark. My blood turned cold. Before I could stop myself, I reached behind the altar and pushed the door open. It swung wide. A narrow stone staircase disappeared into darkness. A cold, damp smell rose up, like mold and fear. Mother Superior gasped. That is forbidden, she snapped. But it was too late. I had seen enough. Footsteps sounded again in the hallway. More than one set this time. Voices. Men's voices. Mother Superior's face changed completely. They are early, she muttered. She turned to me, her calm gone. You have made a very dangerous mistake, she said. Now you must choose. She pointed toward the stairs. Go down there with the child, she said. And stay silent forever. Then she pointed toward the chapel doors. Or leave now, she continued, and understand that no one will believe you. The men's voices grew louder. The little girl looked up at me, her eyes full of hope and terror. I had seconds again, and this time, there was no prayer left to save me. Because the footsteps stopped outside the chapel, and someone began to turn the handle. The chapel door handle began to turn. The sound was slow and careful, like whoever was on the other side did not want to make noise, but also did not care if we heard them. My heart beat so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The little girl grabbed my hand with both of hers. Her fingers were cold and sticky with fear. Mother Superior stood very still. Her face was calm again, but her eyes were sharp, watching me closely. Decide, she whispered. The voices outside were clearer now. Deep voices. Men's voices. They were not praying. They were laughing softly, as if this place belonged to them. I looked down at the staircase behind the altar. Darkness waited there. Whatever was down there had already hurt this child. I could not take her back into that darkness. Then I looked at the chapel doors. Freedom was there, but so was danger. Mother Superior was right about one thing. I was just a nun. Who would believe me? The handle turned more. I made my choice. I pulled the little girl toward the side of the chapel and whispered, "Run when I say run." Mother Superior's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" she hissed. I stepped forward, putting myself between her and the child. "I am choosing truth," I said. The door opened. 2 men stepped inside. They wore dark coats and smelled of smoke and rain. One of them had a scar on his cheek. The other smiled when he saw Mother Superior. "You're early," Mother Superior said, her voice smooth again. "Plans change," the scarred man replied. His eyes moved around the chapel, then landed on me. "We didn't expect company. She is handling a problem," Mother Superior said quickly. The man's smile faded when he noticed the little girl behind me. "That one was scheduled for tonight," he said. My stomach twisted. "She's sick," Mother Superior said. "We'll bring another." The man stepped closer. "No," he said. "We want her." That was when the little girl screamed again. "Run!" I shouted. She ran. She darted past the men, small and fast, her bare feet slapping against the stone floor. For a second, no one moved. Then chaos exploded. "Get her!" the scarred man shouted. One of them lunged forward. I pushed him with all my strength. I was not strong, but surprise helped me. He stumbled back into a pew. Mother Superior screamed my name. I did not stop. I ran after the child. The chapel doors burst open, and cold night air rushed in. The little girl was already outside, running toward the trees. The bells above us began to ring wildly. I didn't know who pulled the rope, but the sound was loud and desperate, echoing across the grounds. "Stop them!" someone shouted behind me. We ran into the forest. Branches whipped my face. My lungs burned. The child was fast, but she was small and tired. I scooped her up when she stumbled, holding her tight against my chest as I ran. Every sound behind us made my heart jump. I could hear footsteps. Heavy, angry. The forest felt endless, dark shapes blurring together. I prayed silently with every step. "Please, please, please." Suddenly, a light appeared ahead. A road. I burst out of the trees and nearly collapsed. A car was coming down the road, its headlights cutting through the darkness. I stepped into the road, waving my arms. The car screeched to a stop. A man leaned out the window, his face shocked. "What on earth? Help us," I cried. "Please." He looked at the child in my arms, at my torn habit, at my bleeding hands. "Get in," he said. We climbed into the back seat. The car sped away just as shadows reached the edge of the trees. I did not look back. The man drove us to the nearest town. He took us to the police station. The lights were bright and harsh, and the smell of coffee filled the air. An officer wrapped a blanket around the little girl and asked her name. "Lucy," she whispered. They asked me questions. So many questions. My words came out messy and fast. I told them everything. About the orphanage, the disappearances, the hidden door, the men, Mother Superior. Some of the officers exchanged looks. One of them frowned. "A convent," he said. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said. "Please, you have to believe me." They sent officers to the convent that same night. Lucy fell asleep in my lap while we waited. Hours passed. Then the officers came back. Their faces were grim. "There are tunnels under the convent," one of them said. "Locked rooms, records, money transfers." My knees went weak. "They're gone," he continued. "Mother Superior, Sister Agnes, the men, they disappeared." I felt both relief and fear. Lucy was safe. But the people responsible were still out there. The police took Lucy away to protective care. She cried when they pulled her from me. "Don't leave me," she begged. "I won't," I promised, even though I didn't know how. The next morning, the news spread fast. A scandal. A holy place turned into something dark. Reporters came. Cameras flashed. People shouted questions at me. Some called me brave. Others called me a liar. The church released a statement denying everything. They said I was confused, traumatized, mentally unwell. They said Mother Superior was a good woman who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. They said there was no proof of trafficking. The tunnels were called storage rooms. The money was called donations. I was asked to leave the convent. I stood at the gates with my small bag, watching the stone walls that had once been my home. Sister Agnes never came back. Weeks passed, then months. Lucy was moved again. And again. I was not allowed to see her. And then, one cold afternoon, I received a letter with no return address. Inside was one sentence, written in neat handwriting. Silence keeps you safe. My hands began to shake. Because I knew that Mother Superior was still alive. And she knew exactly where to find me. The letter slipped from my fingers and landed on the floor like a dead thing. I stared at it for a long time, my heart pounding so hard it made my ears ring. The words stayed burned in my mind. Silence keeps you safe. They were my grandmother's words. Mother Superior's words. The convent's words. A warning. She was alive. And she was watching me. I was no longer Sister Margaret. I had been forced to leave the convent with nothing but a small bag and a heavy fear that followed me everywhere. I rented a tiny room above a bakery in town. The smell of bread should have been comforting, but I barely slept. Every creak of the stairs made me sit up in bed. Every knock on the door made my stomach drop. I kept thinking of Lucy. Her small hands. Her scared eyes. The way she begged me not to leave her. I had broken my vows for her. I had broken my life for her. And now I couldn't even find her. I went to the offices. I asked questions. I filled out forms. Every time, I was told the same thing. It's for her safety. You're not family. You should move on. Move on. How do you move on from a child you saved from darkness? I started writing everything down. Every detail I could remember. Names, dates, faces, the tunnels, the hidden door, the men. I told myself that if something happened to me, someone would need to know the truth. One evening, as I walked home, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Someone was following me. I could feel it. The sound of footsteps slowing when I slowed. Stopping when I stopped. I turned suddenly, but the street was empty. Still, the fear stayed. That night, there was another letter under my door. No envelope. Just a single line. You were warned. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I got angry. The next morning, I went to the police station again. I showed them the letters. Some of the officers looked uncomfortable. One of them sighed. Margaret, he said gently, you've already done enough. These people are powerful. It's better to stay quiet. Stay quiet. I realized then how deep this went. The silence wasn't just inside the convent. It was everywhere. That was when I decided I would not be quiet anymore. I contacted a journalist. Her name was Claire. She listened without interrupting, her eyes serious, her pen moving fast. I showed her my notes. I told her everything. This is big, she said finally. And dangerous. I know, I replied. But children are still being hurt. The article came out a week later. It exploded. People were angry. Protests formed. Old girls from the orphanage came forward, crying, telling stories they had buried for years. The church could not deny it anymore. That was when Sister Agnes appeared. She found me outside the bakery one morning, standing in the early light like a ghost. She looked smaller, older, broken. They'll kill you, she whispered. They already tried, I replied. She told me everything. The convent had been in debt. Mother Superior had been approached by wealthy men who wanted children, children with no families, no one to look for them. Sister Agnes said she told herself it was for adoption. That it was God's plan. But she knew the truth. Why didn't you stop it? I asked. She cried. Because I was afraid, she said. She told me something else too. Lucy had been taken back. My heart stopped. They moved her, Sister Agnes said. Tonight. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I ran. We drove for hours, following directions Sister Agnes gave me between sobs. An old estate, far outside town, surrounded by trees. When we arrived, it was already dark. The building loomed ahead, silent and watching. I got out of the car. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back. But then I heard it. A cry, soft, afraid, a child's cry, and I knew. Lucy was inside. I stepped toward the door. It opened before I could knock. Mother Superior stood there, smiling. You should have stayed silent, she said. And the door slammed shut behind me. The door closed with a deep, heavy sound that echoed through the house like a final warning. For a moment, I could not move. Mother Superior stood in front of me, calm and neat as always, her gray coat pressed, her hair perfectly covered. If someone had seen her on the street, they would have thought she was a kind old woman. A woman of God. But I knew the truth now. Behind her, the house was dark and silent. Too silent. The air smelled old, like dust and fear. You came all this way, she said gently. You should be tired. Where is Lucy? I asked. My voice shook, but I did not look away. Mother Superior smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the kind of smile someone wears when they believe they have already won. She is being prepared, she said. Just like the others. Something hard and hot burned in my chest. There are no others anymore, I said. People are talking. The police are watching. You can't hide. She stepped aside and gestured for me to walk in. Oh, Margaret, she said, using my old name like a knife. There will always be others. Silence has many friends. I walked inside. The door stayed unlocked behind me. That surprised me, but then I understood. She did not think I could escape. The house was large, with long hallways and closed doors. I could hear faint sounds coming from somewhere below us. Soft whimpers. Children, you taught us silence, I said as we walked. You taught us obedience. You used God to scare us. She stopped and turned to face me. I saved that convent, she said sharply. I fed children when no one else cared. I kept the doors open. You think the church helped. You think donations just appear. You sold children, I said plainly. Yes, she answered, just as plainly. To men who paid enough to keep us alive. There it was. No lies. No holy words. Just the truth. And Sister Agnes? I asked. You broke her. Mother Superior looked away for the first time. She was weak, she said. Weak people are dangerous. We reached a locked door at the end of the hall. Mother Superior took out a key. She is in here, she said. Lucy. My hands clenched into fists. She trusted you, I said. She believed you spoke for God. Mother Superior paused. God is silent, she said. Someone must act. She opened the door. Lucy sat on a small bed, her knees pulled to her chest. Her face lit up when she saw me. Margaret, she cried. I ran to her and pulled her into my arms. She was shaking, but she was alive. Behind me, Mother Superior closed the door. It ends tonight, she said. Before I could turn, a loud crash shook the house. Then another. Shouts. Footsteps. Mother Superior's eyes widened. The door burst open. Police officers flooded the room, shouting orders. Flashlights blinded us. Lucy screamed and clung to me. Mother Superior tried to run. She didn't make it far. They took her away in handcuffs, her calm finally gone, her face twisted with rage and fear. Sister Agnes stood in the doorway, crying. Behind her was Claire, the journalist. And behind them were more officers. They had listened. They had followed us. Lucy was safe. This time, truly safe. In the weeks that followed, everything came out. The tunnels. The money. The names. The men. The lies. Mother Superior went to prison. So did the men who paid her. The church could not hide it anymore. Too many voices spoke at once. Sister Agnes testified. She told the truth, even though it broke her. She was not sent back to a convent. She went to live quietly, trying to forgive herself. And me. I was never a nun again. But I was finally honest. Lucy came to live with a family who loved her. They invited me to visit. She calls me Grandma Margaret now, even though I am not that old. Sometimes, she asks me why bad things happen in holy places. I tell her the truth, in simple words. Because people are people, I say. And silence can protect bad things if good people stay quiet. That is the lesson I learned too late, but not too late to matter. Faith is not silence. Faith is courage. And if something feels wrong, even if everyone tells you to be quiet, you must speak. Because one voice can save a life. And sometimes, it can change your own forever.